play at an incredible level. He's got it. Kobe Bryant has now scored more points than any other player at Madison Square Garden with 61.
I still remember being in a car in heavy traffic in New York City while listening to this game on the radio and thinking, wow, I mean, Kobe just crushed the records in Madison Square Garden. And I'm a Knicks fan, and I was really rooting for him, and this was a great night for everybody who got to see and hear the game. This past weekend, Kobe got inducted into the Hall of Fame by his wife and other living legend, Michael Jordan. I want to make my own tribute to Kobe, so I'm designing my own design in honor of his name and all of his accomplishments that I'm going to be carving out with a CNC. This was not easy. It did not come out perfect. But check it out. This is my tribute to Kobe. Mamba out.
So, my very own design, but not really, because I'm going to be stealing some other designs off of some online sites to make this happen. So, let's get started with the obligatory, true and tested Black Mamba logo. This was an easy model to find with a really high level of detail, as you can see in some of the smooth indentations and transition points in this model. Next, let's add some wings. Not as easy to find. I had to suffice for this model here, which wasn't the exact style of wings I was looking for, but the detail was high enough for me to carve out with the CNC. You'll see later that this is also a cause of the most amount of trouble for me. I wasn't sure how I wanted to combine the two of these yet, but I thought that would be cool to have the wings coming out of the logo, and so we'll go with that for now. The important thing to keep track of here is the depth, because there's only a certain stock thickness of wood that I'll have to work with, and I don't want to go overboard with the layers here. And now, the easiest layer, adding an NBA jersey to the top layer by extruding out an SVG file of a generic jersey design. Okay, now let's tell my machine how I want all of this cut out. I'm going to keep it simple, a pocket operation that lets me clear out a massive amount of the wood to get started with a 1/4 inch bit, followed by a parallel operation with a tighter diameter to get as much possible detail in this design. The smaller the bit, the better this will come out. And again, we'll touch on this later. Okay, let's export this out and take it to the Shapeoko CNC machine. Wood's pricey right now, so I ended up cutting off a slab from a tree trunk I had and decided to go with this, even though there's a giant crack in the middle. Add this to the list of growing results. I measured out the area that I needed for the piece and cut out as much of a square space as possible just to save time on the CNC. I also flattened it a bit on the bandsaw, but I'm going to flatten it properly when we get to the CNC. We're going for 1.5 inches of depth here, so I'm going to be using a wider carbide bit for flattening on top. Then we're going to use this flat side as the bottom, that way we make sure we're even when cutting down from the model. Some double-sided tape, a nice pad on the top, and some clamps on the edges, and this thing won't be moving anywhere. Now, let's switch from the flattening bit to my 1/4 inch bit, and there's my elbow. Sorry about that. Now we're seeing that operation where we're taking out a big chunk of the wood at a time with a 1/4 inch bit. And remember that part I said about the smallest bits being able to give the best detail? Well, don't let those be from China, or else you're going to notice the same thing I did at this moment with the bit doesn't fit inside the CNC collet. Well, that's completely wasted. New plan, let's use this extremely long 1/8 inch bit, which has way too much wiggle, and is way bigger than is needed for the amount of details needed. So yeah, we're going to have to make a take 2 on this design after my new bits arrive in the mail that let me get much cleaner detail, but this will do for the first prototype. So let's go ahead and finish it up. We're going to add some finishing spray, and as a final touch, I'm going to laser on Kobe Bryant and his numbers on the back. Even though this one had a lot of issues, the wrong choice of wood, failed bits from China, I'm still pretty happy with the concept of the design, and there's things I want to improve on in the next one, but I'm happy I was able to make a tribute to Kobe during his week in the Hall of Fame. So, until the next one, Mamba out.
What a magnificent one. Kobe Bryant, a standing ovation at Madison Square Garden from some of the most educated observers of the game.